Hello, my friends. I'm Rich Larsen, and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today, we are on to episode 4 of our 10-part progression series featuring Marc and myself. This is designed for you guys to follow along weekly and guaranteed to improve your skills by episode 10. Marc, how we feeling, dog?
A lot of homework, but like you said, the previous episode, I mean, knowing where I have to work on, I think that's tremendous progress, for me.
Yeah, dude.
That I can go back and work on it.
That's what the goal is, right? So if you were to take a private lesson from me, this is what we would be doing. And I want everyone to walk away from my lessons feeling like they get their money's worth, feeling like it's, it's valuable. And man, we're 3 episodes in, and boy, oh boy, we found a lot of weaknesses already, right? And that's everyone. That is literally everybody that I teach. For the most part, man, riders don't have their fundamentals completely dialed. So we're on to some of my favorite versions of drills. These are cone drills. Today's episode, we're breaking down a slow race drill, okay? So this is what we're gonna do. Marc, start your bike, ride through those cones, just ride straight. You can see we've got the pointed cones on both ends. We're gonna time you and see how slowly, okay, you can go. I'm gonna start the timer right there. I'm gonna end the timer there. Stay within the gap. And again, just try to go as slow as possible. I'm gonna time you.
Just straight?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do your best. And then we'll see what improvements we can make.
Okay.
This is a good way for me to see where the rider is at. This is pretty good. Not too shabby. Okay, that's a 0. Turn around, try again. Not bad. That was pretty good, actually. But here we go again. We're going for no dabs through this section. That's great balance. So already I can see Marc has a good understanding of how to control that machine, how to maximize it slow. This is honestly very high above the average rider. To be completely honest, this is much better. 0 again. I mean, geez, he's practicing it by himself without any tips. So hopefully we can give him some good tips and get some improvements out of him, but he's doing solid. This is actually very good. All right, so I have no baseline right now because Marc continues to not make it all the way through. I like the standing position like last week's episode. Very good. That is really good. Very, very good job. Truly. That was very good. So that was 21 seconds. Very, very good job.
Wow, okay.
And in fact, I was so impressed that you actually made it all the way through this time that I almost forgot to stop the timer. So,
well, thanks for that.
Very good job. You definitely, you have a great understanding of balance. So that's really good. The goal here is to add a little bit of time to that. Now, there's a couple things we can do. The first thing I'm gonna say is learning how to really drag, be gentle and drag your front brake, okay?
Yeah,
so
yes.
You're a little stabby.
Yes.
Which, if you don't have the balance to maintain the stabbiness, right? So every time you stab that, it compresses the suspension and it throws you off of balance. So we need to learn how to be really gentle so it helps us maintain our balance, okay? Now the idle is pretty high on your bike, so we're using the clutch to kind of maintain balance, and I can see that you're doing that. So the big thing I want you to think about is very centered pressure on the peg, okay? Balls of your feet, think about centered pressure, maybe even drop down a little lower, widen your knees out a little bit. Let that bike flow a little more. We're kind of squeezing the bike still, which is good at speed. But in slow pace stuff, we want to kind of let that bike flow. So if you notice here, I'll kind of give you an example. Obviously, this is about maintaining balance. Now, I could just go here and stop and balance all day long, right? But if you notice here, Marc, look at where I am. Look at how I'm letting that bike flow from right to left. See where my body is? letting that bike lean each way. See how I'm letting that bike each time I change directions. So if I'm going to the left, my right knee comes out. If I'm going to the right, my left knee comes out. I drop that bike into my right knee. You see how I'm kind of leaning that bike back and forth? That control is what we're looking for. We want to be loose and flowing on that machine. Always on the balls of our feet, we have control of that bike. You saw there, each time if I'm turning to the right, my left knee comes out, I lean the bike into my right leg. If I'm turning to the left, my right leg comes out, I lean the bike into my left. I'm very loose and flowing, and I'm trying to play on that center point. Okay, so a little bit wider knees, smooth front brake.
Okay.
Think about just a steady drag, okay? And again, we're using that clutch to actuate movement. Just a little extra pace. We don't want to fight our balance, okay? That's why steady but throttle. So see that? Right there, that means you're leaving it at an idle. If you stall it, you're leaving it at an idle. We want to be steady on that throttle and use that clutch to actuate our movement, okay? Very good. Direct contact. Think about equal weight on your pegs, keeping that bike in the center, equal weight, okay? So this is also just great practice. You know, this is a great way to really dial in your slow speed understanding and your ability to control that bike, right? I mean, again, you can get a serious training session on flat ground. Good save. Come on. There it is.
Hell yeah! Yeah! What's the time?
27 seconds.
Yeah!
The stoke is high. Good job, man. Very, very good. We started to move that knee. I could see you started to think about that. You were bringing, every time you'd go to the left and you kind of hug the right, every time you'd go to the left, because you're more comfortable balancing to the left,
Yes.
right? You hugged the right side. Every time you'd move to the left, your right knee would come out. That assists in your balance. A little bit smoother on the throttle, smoother on the brake. Everything was better, okay? Now, again, this is one of those things that it's a simple drill. You don't even have to have the cones, to be honest. You can just practice it. But I like the cones because they hold you accountable here, right? Anybody can kind of turn in a circle all day long, right? So we kind of use those cones to hold us accountable. There's also this kind of level, and we'll see this as we move through these drills, a level of target fixation. You look at a cone and you stare at it, and then you kind of lose your balance, right? So learning how to kind of ignore that and focus on just riding the machine correctly, right? So great centered position, you beat your time. Some simple things made a huge difference,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And this is a fun game to play with you, your buddies. I mean, the better you get at balance, the better you will be everywhere. I always say, how can you expect to control your machine in technical situations if you can't completely control your machine right here? We nailed it. That was episode 4. Work on it, right? Doesn't take long to find some really high-level balance, throttle control, everything, bike control in general in a very short period of time. You did an awesome job, Mark. Next week, I'm not sure what we're working on next week. I'd have to look at my list. But I'll tell you what.
You have it on your hand.
You know what? You're right.
See, this is Rich Larsen, gentlemen, okay, and girls.
Next week, we are going to work on a cone weave. Now this is another one of those ones that if a rider rides by, they go, that'd be really easy. But I would be willing to put $1,000 down that they don't have the ability to do it completely. So we'll see what happens. Tune in next week. Make sure you guys are following along, man. Work on these weekly. I guarantee it will help your skill, help you improve on that motorcycle, and that's all I want, man. I want to see people getting better, getting out there, riding hard enduro, riding technical single track, buying bikes, helping the industry. I want it all, man. I want this sport to grow. So yeah, keep at it. Follow along weekly. We'll see you guys next week. Until next time, keep shredding.